Week 2 has come to a close, and there was a lot of exciting action. A lot of close games, another Game of the Year candidate, and some games not so close. There's going to be a lot to get into this video. I will be taking a brief look at all the games played this weekend, and then getting into the storylines from those games. But before I get into all of that, I want to thank you guys for all of your support. You guys got this channel to over 1,000 subscribers over the weekend, and I really appreciate that. It keeps me motivated to keep making videos. But anyway, into the quick recap. Starting with Thursday night, we had the Packers vs. Commanders. I mean, this game was just utter domination. The Packers defense looks like one of the best in football at the moment. The offense did enough in the game as well, but Matthew Golden should have had 2 touchdowns. Hoping for a speedy recovery to Austin Eckler. Ravens vs. Browns. Looks close there for a minute, but then the Ravens ran away with it. Really the expected outcome, and was a get-right game for the Ravens. It was also made pretty clear we won't be seeing much Shador this season. Bengals vs. Jaguars. Bengals squeak by with another win thanks to their opponent making critical mistakes. The Jaguars really should have won this game, but they missed crucial plays to put this game away. Though this game did come with a heavy cost to the Bengals, losing Joe Burrow for most of the season, and a good amount of defensive players too. Cowboys vs. Giants. It's week 2, and we already have multiple candidates for Game of the Year. The game started off slow, but the fireworks were unleashed in the fourth quarter. Blow after blow was traded, taking this game to overtime, which was a bit of a letdown, and the Cowboys ended up getting the win. I'll talk more about this game later. Bears vs. Lions. You could tell the Lions were pissed after last week, and they just let everything out on their next opponent, which happened to be the Bears. It's clear it'll take some time for the Bears, but the Lions showed they are still a team to be taken seriously. Isaac Teslaw with his weekly highlight catch. Patriots vs. Dolphins. Well, the Dolphins aren't completely dead yet. They still lost, but at least they have some life after week 1. But the Patriots took advantage and got the win. Ramondre isn't giving up this backfield quite yet. We will see if the Patriots can carry on this success. 49ers vs. Saints. The Saints are playing teams close, which props to them is pretty impressive considering their talent, or lack thereof. It also helps that the 49ers were missing their starting quarterback, but Mac Jones played well enough in Purdy's stead. Being able to lean on Christian McCaffrey is a cheat code. Bills vs. Jets. Pretty much the expected outcome. The Bills were just the better team all around. They were able to run the ball at will, which gave Josh Allen a bit of a rest after last week's heroics. The Jets offense couldn't get anything going. Justin Fields was playing pretty bad before he got knocked out of the game. Looks like a completely different team after last week, which may say something about the Steelers' defense. Speaking of the Steelers, Seahawks vs. Steelers. The Steelers completely fell apart in the second half. The first half, they were able to hold the Seahawks, and they were able to get a lead before half. And then it all fell apart. The Seahawks were able to move down the field, and the Steelers just kept giving the ball away, including a potential scoring opportunity. The Steelers are just destined to be 9-8 every year. Rams vs. Titans. Now, the Rams were just playing with their food this game. The Titans actually had the lead at halftime, but then the Rams stepped on the gas and took care of business. At least Cam Ward had a nice throw. Panthers vs. Cardinals. This game was a lot closer than it had any right being. The Cardinals controlled the game for the first 3 quarters, and then Kyler Murray threw a pick, and then all hell broke loose. The Panthers suddenly started scoring. Fortunately, they were able to get a last-second stop to save the game. At least Bryce Young was able to bounce back this week. Broncos vs. Colts. What was that, Denver? I thought this defense was supposed to be good. Instead, you got torched by Daniel Jones. You couldn't even stop the run either. And then Bo Pix throws an interception to let the Colts back into the game. But when you had the chance to extend the lead, no, you whiffed a routine kick. And then you let the Colts get down the field into field goal range. But fortunately, they missed the kick, and you hang on. Wait, you got a penalty? Literally never seen this called, and now they get another try, and they make it. Congrats, Denver. Eagles vs. Chiefs. A pretty close game. Not exactly the most exciting, but when both teams have pretty good defenses, it's hard to expect a high-scoring affair. It was really down to who would make the first critical mistake, and it was the Chiefs.
Oh no!
Travis Kelce might be washed. Falcons vs. Vikings. This game was pretty one-sided. The Vikings defense kept the game pretty close, but Bijan rips them apart. The Falcons defense, on the other hand, was excellent. Constant pressure on McCarthy, not allowing the Vikings to move. Buccaneers vs. Texans. I mean, this Texans offense is one of the worst in the NFL right now. They can't run the ball, they can't really protect CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud made one of the worst throws that I've seen in a while, and it was somehow not picked. I would be very worried about the Texans right now because that offense looks bad. Also, Baker Mayfield showed why he's one of the clutchest quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Finally, Chargers vs. Raiders. Not really a whole lot to talk about in this game. Pretty boring for a Monday night game, and with the time slot it was at, I'm not sure a lot of people watched it. The Chargers are reminding people they have a really good defense. The offense wasn't really doing a lot, but they did let Justin Herbert throw the ball around, and there was an impressive play to Quentin Johnston, which, surprising, he's actually made plays 2 weeks in a row. Shocking. The Chargers look like one of the best teams in the AFC right now, and are definitely in contention for the AFC West crown. But let's get into the storylines for this week. The first storyline I will be getting into is a major injury to a top quarterback in the NFL, Joe Burrow. Versus the Jags, Burrow got injured on a sack. He couldn't put any pressure on his left foot, and he had to be carried to the locker room. It was found out to be a toe injury. However, toe injuries can be pretty nasty, and apparently Burrow's injury was as bad as it can be. It was a grade 3 turf toe injury, which basically means the ligament for your big toe is completely ripped. And for Burrow's case, surgery would be required, which would cause him to basically miss the entire season. There could be a world where he comes back late December or January, but it's a massive blow to the Bengals. This is what happens when your offensive line is bad. Your injury-prone quarterback gets injured. Jake Browning was able to lead the Bengals to victory, but that was thanks to a little help from the Jaguars. He threw 3 picks against a defense that wasn't prepared for him. It would be tougher against other teams who actually have time to game plan against him. Now, I won't say the Bengals season is completely over yet, but I wouldn't expect them to make the playoffs at this point. In other quarterback news, let's talk about a surprise one. Indiana Jones has found a fresh start in Indianapolis. He's basically continuing the trend of cast-off New York quarterbacks performing well outside of New York. Geno Smith started the trend, then Sam Darnold had a big year last year, and now Daniel Jones is off to a hot start this year. The Colts roster is pretty solid, so if they could just get a quarterback to lead them, they could be competitive. And so far, that's been Daniel Jones. Maybe calling Trevor Lawrence Daniel Jones would be a compliment at this point. Now look, I still have my doubts. It's only been 2 games and we've seen teams melt down after a strong start, like the Saints last year. But Colts fans have to be optimistic at this point with the 2-0 start. If he can keep it up, the AFC South is wide open, but he still needs to prove it for a few more weeks before I crown him the franchise quarterback of the Colts. But it looks good so far. And speaking of divisions that are wide open, the AFC West. The Chiefs have been off to a rough start. This is the first time they've been 0-2 since 2014, but they've had some stiff competition. The Chargers looked great against them in week 1, and they had to face the Super Bowl champion Eagles this week. These are by no means easy games, but it does show some vulnerability. But the schedule doesn't get easier for the Chiefs. There's a world where they could be sitting at 3-6 going into the bye. The Broncos also haven't looked great over the past few weeks. They played the Titans way too close in week 1, and then lost to the Colts because of a critical turnover and the worst time for a penalty. Meanwhile, the Chargers are sitting at 2-0, which is best in the division, and they've also looked like the best team in the division. They've beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Raiders, and the biggest surprise is they're letting Justin Herbert throw the ball. We expected them to be a run-first team, but the run game hasn't been all that great. But the pass game has. The Raiders, they're better than we expected, but they're probably not going to be competing for the division title. Looking at a different divisional matchup, let's look at the Cowboys vs. Giants game. This was the best game this weekend and could be in contention for Game of the Year. However, it does have some stiff competition already, and who knows what other great games could happen this year. It was a close game throughout. but the fireworks started in the fourth quarter. Each team scored on every drive, trying to get the final blow. But even though the Giants scored a huge touchdown with 33 seconds left, Ferguson was able to make a big play to get close to field goal range to take this game to overtime. After trading some punts, Russell Wilson threw an interception in their own territory to give the opportunity for the game-winning field goal, which Brandon Aubrey hit. For the Cowboys, this is a good sign after last week that this offense can still hang with anyone. This should allow them to be competitive in every game, though losing their starting center for possibly 2 months does put a damper on things. However, what isn't so great is their defense allowing 36-year-old Russell Wilson to throw for 450 yards and 3 touchdowns, though that interception was clutch. What would be nice is to have a game-wrecking pass rusher to take over a game in the fourth quarter and prevent one of those several touchdowns from happening. Oh wait, I guess forget about the Bengals being a top offense. The Cowboys will need to put up 30 every game to win. On the Giants side of things, at least it's a good sign that Russell Wilson is able to put a big game. It at least saves his job for a few more weeks before Giants fans start calling for his head again. The last thing I will say is about the Packers. Right now, they look like one of the best teams in the NFL. They dominated the Commanders on Thursday. Their offense had opportunities to put the game away earlier, but they did enough to win. And they dominated the Lions last week, who put up 50 on the Bears this week. So it's clear that the Lions are still a strong team, just the Packers were that much stronger. Though a growing theme is the Packers offense letting teams hang around longer than they really should. Their defense has been elite, so it hasn't been a problem yet. But if this keeps up, it could bite them in the butt later in the season. For the Packers' sake, hopefully not in the playoffs. The Packers' schedule is not that difficult. There's a few tough games like Philly, Baltimore, and Detroit again. But the rest are teams the Packers should theoretically beat. Anything less than double-digit wins in a playoff spot would be a disappointment at this point. And that's all the storylines I will be covering in this video. Let me know in the comments if there's anything that I missed and what you are looking forward to in week 3. But anyway, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!